All righty.
Time to get the party started.
Woohoo!
Oh, do some adjustments on my end. All right, Geek Out number 46, first of its type. We're doing some Stormlight Archive fan theory crafting in anticipation for the release of Rhythm of War coming out next month. Planning to do a Geek Out for that the last Sunday of the month of November. We are fortunate to have a couple guests today, might have a couple other popping on through. We have, once again, Chaz with books and stuff. And then we have JJ, the bearded bookworm.
What's
Thanks
up,
for joining us, guys. I said it already offline, but I've been looking forward to hanging out with you guys and geeking out over this incredible series. And then, yeah, we were talking a bit about it too. You guys are pretty much current with almost all of the Cosmere at this point, right?
Correct.
I still have not read Mistborn Era 2. But
Okay.
other than that, yeah, I read everything else.
Yeah. And then JJ, you said this was your first Brandon Sanderson to start off with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my intro. Coming back for the second time has been much more knowledgeable or Easter eggy.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of like epic fantasy before that? Because when I've tried to gift Stormlight to people in the past, they're just like, what is this huge book? So I usually like start them with Mistborn instead of going for Stormlight.
So I've had a few, like Aragon was my favorite book series in high school and stuff. So like I've been exposed to it. And usually I'm trying to think if there's any like really thick, like Stormlight-esque other ones, but I can't honestly, I can't think. I know I read the first Game of Thrones as a kid.
Okay.
Ish, but other than that, like nothing like we weren't topping 1,000 pages a book.
I was about to say there's very few that actually stack up with the Stormlight Archive in regards to volume.
Oh yeah.
Like Game of Thrones is big, but it's not nearly that big, right?
No.
The Lord of the Rings, if you put them all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're pretty big.
Yeah, that's pretty big. And that was my first epic fantasy.
There we go. There we go. The classics take us back. Yeah. And then Peter and I have started on Rhythm of War with the preview chapters. Brandon Sanderson was nice enough to throw up the audiobook on his page, which is incredible. So I've been listening to that. Probably won't immediately get too much into that. Would really like to go down memory lane, talk about where we've been, where we're going, what we'd like to see in Rhythm of War. Super pumped to have it for the holiday season.
Yeah, I think the timing was pretty good.
Yes. There's a lot of good drops coming out towards the end of this year.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Catch it for Black Friday and then Christmas.
I think there's also like a Hugo, or it's like award season something or another, like the timing of it. It's like when you have the summer blockbusters because it's going into the award season. The back of Ender's Game said something along those lines of when they timed releasing it was for the Hugo or Nebula or whatever one that one won.
Okay. Yeah. So just to start getting into it, let's start off with JJ's hashtag on Moash did nothing wrong. Because like
This is
when I think go ahead.
I was just to say, this is a hill I will die on. He will be redeemed, and everybody will love him. And I want to be on record. I'm the first one. Moash did nothing wrong.
I empathize with him. I really do. Too. And we get to see, in a lot of ways, I feel like Moash and Kaladin are two sides of the same coin, right? Like in Oathbringer, they both befriended the same group of Pershendi, right? Like they both showed empathy for the Voidbringers, which are not the Voidbringers.
Right.
But yeah. Tell us what you got on the top of the hill there, JJ.
All right. So, like you said, two sides of the same coin. The key here is Kaladin had Syl. His Jiminy Cricket being like, you need to be better. Kaladin already had that in him, but once he started like getting the ideals, saying the ideals, he started getting that power. And then in Words of Radiance, you see him kind of go against that, going in with Moash. And he's like, honestly, and they even talk about what he's doing wouldn't have caused his oaths to break, other than that he'd already sworn to protect him. And that was the issue. So there go. Moash doing it. He didn't swear nothing. I guess he did. He swore the same thing. But also, this read-through has been really interesting because you hear not just Kaladin, but you also hear from Moash, hearing those voices of saying like talking to him, and it's the same type of voice. It's Odium, but like you're talking to Dalinar, the same thing of like, you had to do it, whatever. If Moash had a Spren to bond with, to be like his Jiminy Cricket, so to speak, probably may not have been in the same situation. Also, the two, Kaladin and Moash, both have light. I guess it's technically the same light eye, but Kaladin's life got ruined because of what's the guy's name? The garbage dude, the Bright Lord.
Yeah, Rashon.
Rashon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now imagine how Kaladin would be if Rashon figured out a way to imprison Kaladin's parents and stick them in a prison with no hope of like a trial or anything like that, and they died in prison. Now imagine how pissed off Kaladin would be at that point. That is Moash. Except it was his grandparents that he came back and found out about all this.
Right. One of the things that I noticed kind of while you're making your points was like a lot of the oaths are subjective to the person's point of view, right? Like what is honor? What is, where they stand on these issues. It's very much like in the minds of men, right? Because we see that earlier on with Kaladin's journey to, where he gets so much more respect from the Pershendi than he did from his own army, right? So he's like, why is it right to kill them when it's not all right to kill like the king and whatnot, right? Like it's all the perspective. And we learn at the end of Oathbringer that kind of like what shattered the Radiance was the revelation of, we are the Voidbringers. Like we are here fighting to kind of like conquer and enslave the Pershendi. So are we really on the right side, right? And there is Moash, who is throwing in his lot with the natives of this plane. So yeah, it's really interesting. I'm curious to see the journey into book 4. Like I said, Pete and I have listened to it a little bit, and the tease that I've seen so far, oh my gosh, like Brandon Sanderson is just amazing at the scaling and the layering, like just the little bit that we get of the world in book 1, and then you go to book 2, and then we're in book 3. It's just like,
one comment on that is literally every book starts with the same scene except for from a different perspective. Well, okay, except for book 1, because that's getting the Radiance, right? No, the
heralds.
Heralds. Yeah, getting the vision of the Heralds. But yeah, he's just adding more layers and developing it more, and the whole, killing the king that the series is built around, and why we're right and why we need to take out these other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just add so much more insight.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that the prologues are like this. Those movies are not like murder mystery. There's one with Dennis Quaid, I think, or like a Secret Service one, where it's literally like the same 10 minutes, but shown from every different perspective, and you're trying to piece it all together. That's like how he's doing this over all of these books, where you're just like, oh, here's all of these things that play into the part, which we don't actually know who hired Zeth to kill the king, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
The Pershendi put him up to it. They got his oath stone, and
but it was one of the heralds that actually verbally gave him the commission, though. His former master.
I don't know. I thought because
herald, right?
I can't remember the name, but the tradesman who's training the little girl, and she has a weird potted plant. Anyway, when they're doing that transaction with Shinovar, he's asking about, hey, do you have another one of those warriors or whatever? And he's like, yeah, I couldn't accept your payment. So that's how the Truthless got out of Shinovar, and then traded, ended up with the Parshmen. And I might be wrong, but I thought it was described in 3 when they get to see a bit of the scene where the Parsh woman who likes to travel and do Eshonai, she was saying that they were trying to bring back the gods, and essentially they said, no, we don't want our gods back. We, gave up all our forms and became what we are now because of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when the council got together and said, we have to do something about this, and they sent Seth after him.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought they were just claiming responsibility for it. I didn't know they were actually the one that sent him.
Right. I was confused on that too.
Yeah.
It was pieced against a couple different scenes.
Right. No. I followed it. Yeah, because Risen got when she was doing the deal, they were talking about getting the Truthless.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's. I just wasn't sure on this read along if that was, or read through if that was actually what had happened or not. I can't.
Brandon Sanderson has like so many different like strings going through these series that like I've lost track thanks to audiobooks and just being huge fans of the series, like I've probably listened to it 10 times at this point, and every time I go back and listen to it again, it's like, oh, like that is who this is, like that is what's going on. So like this last time that I was listening to it in prep for this, the heralds, right? Like Dalinar's drinking buddy, that we get to see in the beginning of book 1, where, you know, he's kind of crazy. He's like, oh, have you seen me, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's one of the heralds that ends up getting offed at the end of book 3 by Moash.
Well, that's a whole separate, you know, is he dead or not? Because I guess that's book 4. Never mind.
We'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah.
But yeah, we get to see quite a few of the heralds, and that's interesting. How I'm a shard blade, but not really a shard blade lady, on top of the battlements who rallies everyone together in book 3, and then transports with Kaladin and Shallan and Adolin through
Azure.
Oh,
there we go, Azure.
Yeah, Azure through the brain fart, Sea of Beads, cognitive realm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Shadesmar.
Yeah, Shadesmar. So she goes through.
Cool.
She's from Warbreaker, right?
Do y'all know who that is?
I haven't read Warbreaker.
Oh,
give it to us.
It's Vivenna. That's Vivenna.
Okay.
Wait,
So
Azure
Azure is a world top. Yeah, she's Vivenna. So whatever happened from Warbreaker to Oathbringer, she now has a Nightblood-esque sword that and now she's hunting Vasher and Xyle and Nightblood.
Yeah, okay, man, that's another one I want to get to too, but
I need to go back and re-listen to it. Way underappreciated for Brandon Sanderson's books.
I did not put Vivenna and Azure together. Interesting.
So many little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
The power of podcasts. It's the only reason I knew.
Nice.
So I actually read Warbreaker knowing that, and still weird, but
well, it's that whole like timelessness, because even when they die, they don't really die. They just kind of get reborn.
Right.
And then you have Hoyd or Wit, and then the madman who comes back and he's rambling and talking about how the other Radiants or the other Heralds are gonna come back and train him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so speaking of Nightblood, we were kind of Nightblood came up briefly, and you mentioned Vasher. That's one thing I'm hoping that we will find out not only where the heck Vasher went, because he showed up at the end of Words of Radiance, I think it was, with Nightblood, and then all of a sudden Zeth has Nightblood and Vasher's nowhere to be found. I'm like, wait, what? Or did I miss?
Vasher's the sword master for the Colin family. He's been there for years at this point. So he trained Adolin, trained Kaladin. So when they're in Shadesmar and they're doing like their morning kata, Adolin, Kaladin, and then Azure's all doing the same kata because they all learned from their same sword master. And they make comments about that, like, we learned our she's like, where'd you learn that? Oh, our sword master. So then when they part ways, she goes, hey, tell your sword master I'm coming for him. And then the part that we don't know is when Vasher came to Roshar, how him and Nightblood got split up. Because Nightblood's been with Nile, the Herald, for whatever amount of time. Because he had it and gave it to Zeth.
Zeth, yeah.
And I think that's where I was thinking that Zeth originally got his permission was from Nile, and not from the Voidbringers.
Yeah, with the little bit I've seen from book 4, I think we're going to learn a lot more about Roshar as a whole.
Yeah.
Without pulling too much from it, one of the conversations they have pretty much talk as if Roshar is just very, very new in the grand scheme of the Cosmere. So that leads me to believe that humanity fleeing there is even more new, right? Because just like with the way they talk about it, but even still, from what we know, and maybe your guys' memories is better than mine, but there's been several, quote, desolations, and then this last one was the longest, where like the desolations were coming more and more frequently, where I think it was like a matter of a couple years apart at time. And then I think we find out at the end of Oathbringer, this last time was the longest, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember,
Pete? Oathbringer.
Are we talking like hundreds of years, or is it?
I think it was like 4,000 years.
Really?
I could be mistaken, but that was the whole. The other herald finds the madman herald, the king of kings, that ended up staying, and essentially he finally breaks out of his stupor because he sees her hands or something, and then she's like, "Oh, you need to hate me, we left you, we sacrificed you," and then he's pretty much like, "What a great thing we did, because we gave them time to advance, we gave them time to figure things out between desolations."
Yeah.
And then that's where we figure out that somehow they're all connected, because that's when Moash kills the king, and she ends up, falling down and wondering what they've done to him.
That's right.
But
killed. But he used a special blade, right? Kind of like
that had a
almost
gemstone in it.
Yeah, with we've learned a bit about kind of like how they trap Spren, right? Like give them something they like, and then they're able to trap them in a gem. So it kind of makes you wonder if they've trapped him, and if they're going to try to use his power later on somehow. Whoa. Right? The same way they use the Fabrians with different Sprens.
And that's what...
Teravangian?
No, the Moash killed the herald that was Dalinar's drinking bunny.
Yeah.
Jezrien.
There we go. JJ's just like on the names, man. We need to have you on more often.
I
literally finished this like 2 days ago. It's fresh.
Okay, good.
Peter,
what's our excuse?
I'm just horrible with names. I've been working with people for like 4.5 years, and I still have to cheat and look at their little name tag. I know what you do. I know you're good at your job, but I don't have a personality to stick to it.
To remember. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, on the topic of Spren and if they're dead, in book 1, how Kaladin Spren Syl is talking to him, and essentially says, if a rock breaks, it's still a rock. if a spren breaks, it's still a spren. If a human breaks, it's no longer a human because something leaves. And so then jump into book 3 in Oathbringer when Adolin's no eyes or sword ends up jumping on the back of the fused and has a reaction and ends up communicating with him, so she's kind of like reawakening. And so I can see all the swords coming back, but there's going to have to be a way to find the bond and a way to kind of see them in Shadesmar. That way they know and can communicate with the Sprens kind of in their realm, because I think that's a closer medium than to have them communicate through the physical realm as they are damaged. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what all comes of that.
Yeah, I'm curious, JJ and Chaz's take on that as well. If you think there's any possibilities there or not.
Oh, I definitely do. I think I definitely have a feeling that in Rhythm of War we're going to see a lot bigger strengthening of the connection between Shadesmar and the real world.
Okay.
I think I think we're going to and by virtue of that see a lot more of the blades come alive.
Okay.
But I think, like Pete said, it does depend a lot on. It seems like the connection between Shadesmar and the real world has been severed from what it used to be, with the exception of a few people like Jasna who can, and Shallan as well, who can connect with it on a deeper level. I think the more generic connection between Shadesmar and the real world has kind of been severed, and I don't know if that's when the oaths were broken and stuff like that. Possibly, I'm not sure, but
well, so aren't there supposed to be 3? And I keep forgetting this. There's the physical realm, the cognitive realm, and then a third one.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at the end of 3, when Dalinar ends up renewing all the spheres and letting the 7 Radiants essentially hold off the whole army, and he's able to like bring them all into one place. I was confused about the spiritual one because Yasuna has her whole like book cover scene where she repairs the wall and she's creating her steps to go up and check out the little command tent they made.
Yeah. Pete jumped in there. I want to get JJ's take on some of that stuff, like with the dead Knight's Blades and everything. Just if you think there's possibilities there as well, because like Adolin's really close to his sword, right? And treats it like a real person, and Maya, I think is the name.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Is the only other person that we see have a relationship with his sword is Dalinar with Oathbreaker, as far as like regarding it as like a like spiritual, like with respect, like Adolin does. But Adolin's like on a whole nother level where he's got this routine where he's straight up talking with it, like unknowingly, like building this relationship with the Spren. And then when they go to Shadesmar, because they spend real quote unquote time, that's when you see that 10 heartbeat requirement go down, because they've like spent
that's right.
time. And so I think Adolin's gonna go spend like a year or whatever, or months in Shadesmar, or maybe in like little sections, like rebuilding doing something with Maya.
I could see that.
Yeah, I could too.
I believe she's like the true spren for edge dancers. And that's where like that theory that Adolin's gonna become an edge dancer because he's healing and restoring. He's never forgotten that spren. That's like that's like edge dancers thing is I'll always remember the fallen and things like that.
Okay.
But I see it going both ways though. If he does become radiant, he'll either be like the quote unquote true edge dancer because Lift is not.
She's a
Well,
character.
Like
She's just
as
awesome.
far as
No.
right. I mean as far as like in world I talk about Lift and like even Niall's like this is what edge dancers are. You're not it. And like all these types of things, like she's like the subversion, and you see that with like a lot of other Knights Radiant, where they're different than they were before.
Well,
so he may be like
so
the classical edge dancer, or maybe
I think typically history repeats itself, and that's what we're being prepped for. But that's not how it's going to go because currently we have, glasses, no glasses, fits.
Renarin.
Renarin, thank you. We have
Yeah.
Renarin who has bonded the Void Spren or the Odium Spren, and that's something that's never happened. And then on the other side, we have the singer, Parshwoman.
Eshanah's sister, Venli.
Yeah.
There we go.
Venli, who has a Void Spren, but it has also found another Spren, or Spren of the other side. So I kind of feel like everything we know and everything that it was isn't going to work because we've had 4,000 years between the desolation, time to build up our fabrials and our knowledge there, time for the Sprens to see things differently, time because Sprens are the embodiment of embodiment of imagination or whatever. Like we say it's a chair and everybody knows it's a chair, so then there's a spren that is a chair. I can't remember how they describe it.
They're the embodiment of the forms, right?
Yeah,
Forms and Shadesmar, and then in the real world you've got the spren embodying those. Is that right?
because they're from the cognitive realm.
Yeah.
So it's humans, their perception of them. Syl talks about how the Spren only have 2 genders now, thanks to humans, where originally they had 4 genders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But continuation on bringing the dead Spren shard blades back to life through connecting with them and Shadesmar. When you get to the 4th ideal, you get your shard plate. Now, we don't know, I don't know, do we get a secondary Spren? Or does our Spren split? Or does it come from the human? Or do we need to go Captain Planet and with our powers combined and find the sword and the set of armor?
Looks like JJ might have some thoughts.
So, two things. There's a theory that the shard plate is like the lesser spren that's related to that order. So for Windrunner, it'd be the wind spren. So when Kaladin's about to say the 4th ideal in Shadesmar, all of those wind sprints start coming in, and even like the spren that are native that haven't been to the physical realm are like, what the hell is this? Like, what the heck are those? And because they're wind spren, they're gathering around him, getting ready because he's about to swear that ideal. Now, Brandon Sanderson has said Shallan is one ideal ahead of Kaladin, which means she is the fourth ideal. The theory is when she goes like creativity masses, her shard plate is creativity spread, and so when she makes those like armies that just like kind of protect her and like kind of like that like what's it called? Because like shift her around, like even Yasna doesn't know where Shallan is. Like she goes and grabs the wrong person first.
Okay.
Okay.
Like the light
and it may
weaving
not
or-
be like full armor just yet, but like that's what she needed at that time.
Okay.
And so the theory is, or I mean, it's Shallan. She could have the shard plate and just like ignores that it even exists for the next 2 years. So who knows?
Like she did with the sword.
Right.
Yeah.
She said the sword for like a decade and just ignored it.
Yeah. That theory makes a lot of sense because they really put emphasis on them being higher spren, or at least, yeah.
Like
Syl
other
does.
friends too. Yeah,
Mhm.
Syl's always hanging out with the wind spren.
Right.
Was it the end of 4 when Hoyd picks up the Lie spren? Or end of 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
The epilogue.
That is something that like I'm super excited about because we know or don't know that Hoyd is a herald and who has been alive for forever, and he's had so many great story moments and made people see what they want to see and how they tell the stories. And the king, right before he dies, almost says the first ideal. Moash kills him, and then he's also Moash is taking a pick to the castle and starts breaking it down, and then Hoyd does his whole I'm a peasant, no, muggle. I can't think of the word. Anyway,
Like a beggar.
Yeah, there we go. He's a beggar, and he ends up like face planting into the wall and talking to it, and he ends up getting his own friend. So I'm excited about that. And then I can't remember if it's 3 or 4, but I'm a sword and I eat people. Assassin in White. He ends up being trained by another one of the heralds, so he obviously already has a spren in his order and everything. So I'm curious to see when the gods play with mortal men.
So Hoyd is like shard-esque. It's
Okay.
He's a weird. So like, I don't think he's a herald because he knows like he's like buddies with like not just the shards, but like the people that became the shards originally. So like you hear like the letters and stuff at the beginning, where these like letters back and forth between Hoyd to like these other, like he even talks to Harmony in one of these letters.
Okay.
Where there's a certain one where it's talking about we because it's the two shards together at that point.
Got you.
I can't remember.
It's really almost more like deity level in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Some
Right,
way
and
big.
somebody asks him straight up, "Are you a herald?" He's like, "No, I'm way older than those fools." Like,
Right.
those
Yeah, I guess
are
that's
those are
true.
children compared to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we would actually see any light weaving from him because in all of his appearances, he already has other worlds versions of light weaving. So like in Warbreaker, he's the what's it called? The bard, whatever those are called. And he does like the little sand, or he does it in Stormlight where he pours the sand and people start tripping out and like seeing stuff.
Right.
Plus, obviously, he changes himself from a beggar to, whatever he wants.
Right.
So, but the thing that I liked was to Pete's point, where he's like, "Come here, little Spren. Boy, do I got some truths for you."
Yeah.
It's gonna become like a super Spren.
Yeah.
He's such a fun character.
Yeah, he is. Really curious to someday learn his backstory.
Yeah, it'd be fun to get a novella of him.
I think again, 30 years from now, like the final series is supposed to be like Dragonsteel or something like that, where it's like the final culmination, but Hoyt is the main person at that point.
Right.
From what I heard, like the rumor there from like Brandon Sanderson said that at some point.
Well, that was his thing when he was talking to picture lady
Shalon?
Or God. Anyway, he was he was talking to Shalon, there we go. And he pretty much said, I will always be there, even though I don't know why I need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Peter said, like, history is doomed to repeat itself. And like the first 3 books, especially in Oathbringer, we really learn a lot about the Desolations and the Heralds. But as I was going back through on this last reread, this time around, it really is a lot different. Because like the Desolations were getting closer and closer and closer. Technology was scaling back. And it was like the 10 orders on one side and then the 10 orders on the other side, right?
Wasn't it 10 and 9?
Well, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but yeah, okay, 10 and 9. But here this time around, and maybe you guys can help me kind of piece it together as we get ready to move forward. One of the Spren decided to not go back with the humans because they were betrayed, and they sided with JJ said it
the listener.
Odium?
The listener. No,
Venli.
Venli, yeah. So Venli is a Knight's Radiant who has one of Odin's Sprens trapped as well. So like I'm curious to see what she'll be able to do, if she'll be able to harness both those powers at one point. But now humanity only has 9 potential Knights Radiant, right?
At the end of 3, we know of 9. I think the Stormfather says the other one may not have manifest yet.
Is that what you got, JJ?
So I think when he was saying, when Odium said, or not Odium, the Stormfather was like, there's somebody nearby, but I don't know who she is yet. I think that he was talking about Venli, because that's why he was able to pick Venli and put him into the vision, because she had the Spren at that point, the real Spren. Okay. And then at the end, there's a little bit where they talk about where she's like, okay, I have both of these. So I still have the forms of power, but now I have Knight's Radiant powers too. And and you're right. The Spren's like, no, I don't want a human. Like they jacked us up last time. And the Dustbringers Spren is the same way, where that's why there was like that betrayal where they're talking, Taravangian's talking, they're like, is your Spren whatever? Like, how's the Spren doing? She's like, don't worry about him. He hates the humans more than we do. Like, he doesn't care as long as we get rid of the Knight's Radiant. Like, they killed us all.
Okay, so they're still bonding with humans, but
potentially.
Okay.
And there could be potentially that Venli's Spren, that type. There could be another one where it's similar to how like Syl was, where she was like, no, it's worth it. I'm going back. I'm going to take the risk. So I think it's the Spren are still like on a very like individual basis can choose who they're
same
picking.
thing with Oh, the assassin in white guy, how his order is primarily following odium, but then he ends up to swear his ideal to Dalinar, and he's fighting on the other side.
So that's one of the big differences this time around. The whole powers are split on who's got what where in regards to the Spren and their abilities.
The other thing that's interesting, Shallan runs into the Unmade that was like jacked up the Oath Gate to send them to Shadesmar in the first place. When she was talking to it, she's like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm doing everything I can to not kill you, but I have to do this. But I'm on your side." So like, there's even an Unmade that's straight up like, "No, screw Odium. Like Odium lied to us in the beginning. When." So like, there's like a whole lot of powers going every which way.
Yeah. So we pretty much spent the first 3 books learning all about the previous desolations, and now we're at the point where everything's kind of like thrown up in the air.
Yeah.
Humanity technology is a lot further than it had been in previous desolations, so there's some potential there. We had man, Peter, your name fog is contagious. We had oh man, Queen, the mother,
Navani.
Thank you, JJ. Navani.
Don't ask me what Elhokar's wife's name is, because she shows up for like 5 minutes. I have no idea.
Yeah, she's kind of a footnote in all this. But yeah, like Navani, they originally were speculating that previous ages they were well ahead of them and thought that all this technology was logged.
Yasuna and Shallan share the power to turn matter into other things, aka
Urge binding.
Oh, but what's the with the scepter, the
bracelet thing, the hand thing.
Oh, the Fabria.
Yes. Anyway, because they thought that they were ahead of them because of that, but that was a gift, essentially.
Yeah. What else did you guys pick out that was different this time around? We have the Knight's Radiance and
well, the Heralds aren't there because
that's true
when
too.
the desolation started, they all came back and they helped them rebuild and soulcast
and train
up and get their orders, and now it's all dispersed and Dalinar's trying to do it.
Yeah. But the listeners have also lost a lot too, right? Like the listeners
they've been slaves as parshmen, and then they only have their 4 forms out of their hundreds from the songs.
We got to see a little bit of that, and we see a little bit more in the beginning of book 4. I find it really interesting how much the listeners, even after their souls are healed, or I forget how exactly they worded it, how much like the humans they are still.
They
the way
act
they
like
deal
wherever they came from. The Alethi are a very warlike race, or human race. Anyway.
Right.
And
Soulcaster.
There we go.
Yeah.
I had to Google it. I could not continue without figuring it out.
So coming back with the Soulcasters. But now they've been able to, figure out other fabules for the Oh, scribing across distances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a theory with that as well.
Tell us more.
That Fabrials are actually from Ashen, which is the planet like the humans left to come to Roshar. Those are actually like super, super ancient technology from like back when they first came over. Because they talk about how the fact that they've captured Spren or whatever in devices and things like that. And so the same thing with like Urithiru, which has been around since like the beginning. The giant, I guess Urithiru is considered like one giant Fabrial, but they're not discovering new things. They're not developing new things. They're kind of like
rediscovering,
almost a Stargate style of like taking ancient technology and figuring out how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, Urithiru did really remind me a lot of Stargate.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The whole opening the portals and to the different cities and stuff. Yeah.
And they still don't have that really figured out and set up yet.
Yeah, they don't.
They're just living in it as a shell, as opposed to a full working thing. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts, as well as like a bit of theory crafting in regards to like our main radiance. And I think, what was it? It was our Hardasian king Lopin, who talked about how like the soul needs to be cracked or broken a bit for the light to get in. But like all our major radiants are, it's almost like, probably shouldn't jest about this, but like they remind me of like the Inside Out cast of just mental disorders in a way, where they all have their challenges. Kaladin is, has like chronic depression. Shalon is like schizophrenic. Not Aelin, Renarin, he kind of like has his fits and everything and is like overly timid and just like all this other stuff. Curious to hear kind of like what your guys' thoughts on just that in general, as far as like needing to be broken for the light to get in, as well as just putting all our faith in humanity on in these individuals, right?
So go ahead. Somebody.
I was about to say anybody.
Well, I was kind of I've been really impressed how Brandon Sanderson has handled like mental disorders without putting them in a completely negative light, which I think is really cool because they're very well used to bring tremendous strength and power to the Radiant's lives. But kind of like you said, Carl, if it gets to the point where we're just putting so much faith in these certain human beings, like it could get to the point that could really cause a lot of problems for them, like with Shalon. How many facades is she going to end up wearing before she just comes apart, and with all the weight of the world on her shoulders and trying to keep up all these different personalities and things like that too. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Quick disclaimer, all about mental health awareness and normalizing it and, accepting of it. So don't want that to come across as that, but we are taking these individuals and then adding all these additional stressors and challenges to them. And it's really interesting to see their journey as, it's like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roger thinks that Adelin's going to revive Maya because she came to him and told him her name.
100%.
I agree. Yeah. I'm just curious to see how it all comes about. Sidestep or back to where we were. So we were talking about how this one is different from the previous Desolations, and before the Radiants would come and make their orders and they would all be together. Currently, we're all more or less independent. Shallan's doing her own thing, Kaladin's doing his own thing, and they're all just kind of floundering about. But and they all have their disorders of being broken people, but as we know with Kaladin, he has his younger brother who got him out of his funk when he was younger and was kind of like a foundation or a rock or someone to help him go on about his thing. So that's one of the downsides to needing to be broken and filled in and fixed by the Spren, but then not having the community support. And I think that's where things are going to thrive once we get enough of each faction or enough of each Radiant that they're going to come together and really, be a support pillar for everybody.
Right. And to that point, like multiple Spren have said this isn't how it's supposed to be. Wendell talks about Lift, the fact that she's able to that she needs food
from eating stuff. Yeah.
Right. Like that's changed her. He's like, that's not even possible. Like that in no way should be possible. You're also way more in the cognitive realm than you should be. And like she's got, when she revived Gox, Wendell was like, no, you're not ready. Like there's no, like you should not have that power yet, which I think that actually happened because she swore the next ideal to get that power. But like them, the Stormfather's telling Dalinar when he does his super clap, he's like, what the heck are you doing? Like, how are you doing this? He's like, nobody's ever been able to do this before. He's like, we're different, dude. Like Dalinar straight up is like, we're different people. The honor's not here anymore. Like, so like it's weird. It's interesting because we've got these. Most of the Radiants are exceptions to the rule. It seems like so far, like even Kaladin, his honor spren is one of like the OG honor spren. All the other Windrunners at this point, unless they all pull an Adolin and revive spren somehow, they're not. They've got Stormfather honor spren, not honor spren.
Right. She's ancient daughter, right? Syl. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Chaz.
Oh no, you're good. So I was just thinking on that note, does that mean that do you guys think that means that all of the Radiants are more unhindered, like when Honor was around the previous time? Did Honor hold them back? Hold back some of that power, and now that Honor is gone, it's like the floodgates have opened, so to speak, and that's why we're seeing so much more.
I think
chaos, if you will.
I think it's a difference between a parent guiding their child and having kind of like a set road for them to follow to be like, hey, this is what you do and next step, versus them diving feet first and just kind of floundering around until it works. So through not having a set path, you're not you don't have your blinders on, and to where that's all you can see. So in some cases, through the chaos will come extraordinary things, and in other cases, you just walked off the side of a cliff. So
They've got a lot more free
I think
agent.
it's more just different direction.
Here's another angle on it. Mistborn, spoiler ahead, you've been warned. So in the Mistborn realm, we have ruin, and it begins with a P. Is it
Preservation?
Preservation.
Yeah.
preservation? So his essence, if you will, is the mist, right?
Right.
Where he kind of like lets part of his being out in there. If Honor's dead, what's happened to his essence, if you will? You're talking about like how they're able to do things stronger, kind of do all this stuff. Could there potentially be harnessing some of that with Honor's essence?
I thought that was the Stormfather.
Yeah, I thought
Well, that's his friend.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the other
But
half.
I think most of his
the essence of Honor, in a way, I guess. Sorry, JJ, go ahead.
Oh no, that's what I was gonna say. I think most of his like investiture and like whatever is in the Stormfather, whereas with Ruin, it gets like weird where his I think it's the cognitive realm. That's like his like manifestation of the cognitive realm in Scadrial. So like that's where you see like the people like the like being in the mist, that's like a cognitive shadow. Stuff like that, where they and there's this weird all of the it's like Brandon Sanderson like made here's the rules for the Cosmere as a whole. Now with each story, I'm gonna break all of these rules across the board.
He does it well. It's all like 17th shards where they each have
16.
a different shard, and I can't remember how many we have in the Stormlight Archive, because we know we have
it's 3, right?
We have Cultivation, which is the Night Watcher, not really, but kind of. It's like the Night Watcher's mother or something.
Yeah, it's like her friend.
Yeah, and we had Honor, and then we have Odium, which can't remember what he's connected to or which one he is.
There's 2 things. So we hear about the sibling. What we don't know is if the sibling is Odium's version of Stormfather / Night Watcher, or Cultivation and Honor, the shards / like the people, the shard bearers had a relationship, like they were together. So like they made Roshar together.
Right.
The theory, there's that one, or the sibling is somehow like a combination of the two. But he may have another like Stormfather-esque, like a super high sprint or noble sprint or whatever they're called.
Okay. Gosh, I just lost it. Somebody else go.
So one thing that I'm excited to hear more about, how the little girl who is on the trade trips picks up the
Risen
grass. Anyway, Risen. So she is this 3? Is this 4? When she essentially her legs are still broken and she has the audit. Is that 3 or 4?
3. When she does the audit.
That's at the end of. Yeah, that's the last interlude, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting because the pet she has who can absorb Stormlight, and after absorbing Stormlight, grows. And I'm curious to see more about that pet because we get to see it prior when Lift saves Gox, and we've got the I'm an evil dude slashing around with my
Nile.
shards. Oh man. Anyway, he uses a similar pet to steal all of Lift's Stormlight. So I'm curious to see more of those arise, as well as, sorry, I'm jumping around here. Back to when the audit happens, they're trying to steal one specific gem, and I can't remember if it's like didn't lose any light, but it's very similar to when Dalinar ends up trapping the Thrill or the Unmade in that specialty gemstone.
Right.
So I'm curious to see what that other gemstone traps or
Isn't that the one that Amaram swallows? Because Odium says a little bit of like
get it. No,
or was that
because
like an extra one as well?
that was a separate one because that's what transforms the king's wife into the Unmade that takes over and that they have to more or less destroy her. Because when Odium gives that gemstone to Amaranth, he says, be prepared, don't let it consume you, because whatever Queen's name is, couldn't handle it.
Okay, yeah, because that audit takes place in the city that the last battle was at. It's all in Thalen City. So that's why I thought it was like a disjointed like timeline thing of like, oh, this happened right before everything.
Yeah, but
they saved the gem. That's right.
Yeah, she ends up. Oh, what'd she do? She kicks her wheelchair off the edge to cock the crossbow, and then her pet swoops in and tanks the parchment.
Eat the investiture. The cheeries.
Yep.
Yes. Nom nom nom.
The Rosharan dragons is what I'm pretty sure those are supposed to be.
Oh man,
it can't be a fantasy book without dragons, right?
I need a full-size cheery flying through Roshar.
Well, that's a whole separate thing for where she picked up Cherry. Like those are giant great shells that have massive gem hearts and one of the weird lines of thought, the Parshmen or the Singers or whatever you call them have gem hearts, and they go into the storm and they have a mindset and attract a spren that goes into their gem heart. What happens when one of those big monstrous whatever gets a new spren? Or why can't they do stuff?
So I don't know if they actually have spren in their gem hearts, because the chasm fiends, they're all like pseudo related, I think. But what's interesting is like Shallan and stuff talks about how they're so big, like they shouldn't be able to like move as fast or even like honestly be able to support themselves, but they have those like symbiotic spren relationships, so like the gravity spren or something that like lift them up to make them better. So does that like how does that work? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that like we just don't know yet.
I would love
Are they harnessing Stormlight?
I think it's like how the listeners do. I think it's how the listeners do it too, where like they just have that connection to Roshar. Because like I think it's the Dawn chant thing when they translate it, where they talk about how the humans came and they can't hear Roshar itself. It's like almost like Roshar is one giant organism, and they all like the creepy Kremling dude in Edge Dancer. That's like got that philosophy about everybody being a Kremling to a bigger organism, like how he is for Roshar.
Okay. Yeah, and I forget the lore on that, but we've seen a couple of those creatures, right? Like we saw it in Oathbringer when the Soulcaster was trying to make it to this one island where there's some lore or whatever there, and the cook was made up of the Kremlings or whatnot. But yeah,
the Amiens.
Okay. Do you remember more lore about them, or just what we've seen so far?
There's not a ton. I know there's two types, and I don't know what the difference is because we get to see like one. There's one of one and one of another. I think Axes the Collector is one of one type. He's that blue dude that saw the big giant water spring that's like the alarm clock for the city. And then we see in Edge Dancer the one that's like the the Spider-Man villain or the Spider version of Spider-Man where it's like millions of little spiders that all collectively think they're Peter Parker. Or Swarm is I think a Spider-Man villain. So basically they're just like this collection of basically bugs that all have like a collective consciousness. And so they, from what I've heard, they're actually play like a bigger role in like the Cosmere as a whole. Like they're super, super ancient. Go for it, Pete.
One random line of thought I remember from Brandon Sanderson's talk. He says that there's it's from Mistborn.
Kandra.
They change shape. Yes, Kandra. There's a Kandra in every Cosmere book.
Do we know the
I was going to ask
yet?
you guys. No, he specifically said nobody knows. Nobody has pointed out who the Kandra is, and they have been shown in the book.
Really
interesting.
So,
any thoughts, guys?
Oh, I got nothing.
I mean, I kind of felt like Hoyd because if he's been alive for so long, and he's got
but the Kandra were formed in Mistborn.
Yeah, the Kandra were formed out of the Mist race, so that wouldn't.
Yeah, Hoyd wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder. Well, no, maybe not. I was almost going to say I wonder if it's one of. I was almost going to say I wonder if it's Renarin, but that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, my guess would be it would be like one of these guys that has been around for a minute or that we see kind of pop in and out.
Right.
Potentially a member of the bridge crew.
I could see that.
Could be, yeah.
Because since the Kandra...
One of their backstories they're all super shady about.
Yeah. But then most of the bridge crew... Do you think that a Kandra could bond with a Spren the same way that these other guys do?
They may not necessarily have to.
Maybe I don't know what's going on with my camera, but I don't see why not, because they can absorb anybody's bones and create a body, and then they can also go Super Saiyan and eat pigs and horses and go full bore. Like 450 horsepower.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So as of right now,
oh, sorry.
So right now, pretty much all the bridge crew are just squires. They haven't actually bonded Spren yet, so they're not actually Radiants. Potentially, does that mean Condra could potentially become a squire and get access to surge binding, like on the lower levels?
I guess they were initially human, right? So as far as like
right.
their spirit,
what was it's not quite human. Terrace.
Well, yeah. I mean, human-like. I guess like going between the different realms, you could be, argue what is human. But yeah.
I just had a weird theory, and I don't even know if this would hold up, but we thought Jasmine was dead, and then all of a sudden she showed up. What if she would that be weird if she was the Condra?
Or I'm sorry, who did we think was
Yasna?
Yasna, yeah, sorry.
So
okay.
My one issue with that, Conjure, in order to like mimic people, have to like traditionally they like straight up like tortured humans and got all the information to be able to mimic them.
Right.
That would mean a Conjure had to do that to Yasna enough to not only fool Shallan, but Dalinar, basically her whole family.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For me,
tough.
I feel like it's going to be like one of the Radiants or one of the people who stayed after, kind of like Xyle the Sword Master or someone else. And that's only because of what little bit I heard in 4. Little snippet. Essentially, when you're invested with so much power and you die, it ends up like coming back, kind of like the way the assassin in white died but then came back, and now he's got like this weird after image stuff. So now the Condra no longer needs to, I guess, reinvest or take someone else out. Now that they're on this different world on Roshar, they're able to be infused with Stormlight and die, but then still be invested and regen, so to speak. I don't know.
He's also said
Go ahead.
He's also said theoretically Mistborn or mistings and stuff like that. Allomancy can work on Roshar, but it would be different. It's just all of the investiture in the Cosmere is universal, except for maybe Rosharan, because you would just need Stormlight. But theoretically, a Mistborn could go to Roshar and use Rosharan metals. It would just be more difficult to get that investiture because it's different.
Interesting.
And a lot of their metal alloy combinations are very specific.
Yeah.
And if Roshar is as new as they imply, you probably can't get all those metals as well, which is how long it takes for them to develop.
True.
Sorry, cut you off, Chaz. What were you going to say?
You're good. Yeah, maybe we'll find out who the Condra is in book 4. Who knows?
That would be fun.
And I'm also looking forward to a few other things too. I'm really looking forward to finally finding out more about Zeph, because each book up until now he's said he focuses on one of the main one of the characters as the main character of each book. So he's done Kaladin, he's done Dalinar, he's done Shallan. So now it's Zeth's turn. So I'm really excited to learn more about him, and I'm especially excited to get some comedy relief in Rhythm of War, because even though Stormlight has been funny in parts, I think it's still more like very serious and things like that. But with Nightblood on the scene now, we're about to get a whole lot of comedy.
He is pretty funny.
Yeah. I was dying laughing during Warbreaker when I was reading. Every time I would read something that Nightblood said, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
And seeing how Nightblood connects to it all too.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get your guys' take on a couple more quick things to maybe talk a bit about what we want to see in book 4, and I don't want to keep you guys too late. One of the bigger revelations, I believe, that came about in book 3 is we know that the two main shards on Roshar were, was it cultivation and honor? So they are like naturally the Parshendi's like shards, if you will. And then humanity brought odium, right? And now at this point in the timeline, honor sided with the humans, and then odium sided with the Parshendi. So yeah, curious your guys' thoughts there. For me, like as we're talking about where all the different powers and things lie, that's kind of a twist on it of itself, because you would think that odium would naturally know humanity better than anybody, considering that like he was their quote unquote deity, for lack of a better word.
I think it's all situational. You know, when life beats you down, do you curl up in the fetal position, you know, wishing it all went away? Well, then odium's gonna come and take it away. But if you know, stand up and say, you know what, life, it's my turn. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do more. And then you take more of the honorable path. And then, you know, if honor was alive,
Okay.
I think it's all like you can never succeed until you've fallen, or you can only climb as high due to what's holding you back. Because then you're like a hot air balloon and you take off those weights and then you go higher.
Okay.
I also wonder if it's not, even though odium knows humanity better, I kind of wonder if he didn't go to the Parshendi as kind of the underdog. You know, they've been mistreated and used by humans all this time, and so now he's going to them. I'm going to give you this power, and I'm going to show you how to defeat humans because I know them so well.
Okay.
So I know all their weaknesses. I know all their strengths. Or at least he thinks he knows how to manipulate them and to eventually destroy them, which, you know, he's preying upon that hatred that the Parshendi have for humans deep down because of the way they've been treated.
Kind of along those lines, though, we know that humanity on Roshar destroyed their home world, right? They were fleeing to Roshar.
Right.
So if they were using odium's spren or investiture, being that more destructive, now the Parshendi using his spren and investiture are more destructive.
I thought odium's whole shtick was the void. I will take it away, but then he ends up bringing it back or giving it back to you when you need it, kind of like the thrill. You know, Dalinar talks about how after the thrill and after the fight, he just feels empty. But then he gets it back and he gets that bloodlust and the thrill, and he feels whole again.
So it's all odium's like passion, not just like anger and stuff. And so I think that's where, because like that dawn chant thing talks about how humans come over and even in present day listeners to say that it's weird talking to them because they don't attune any
They can't hear the songs.
Right.
So, but they still have that like passion there. And so then you see with the fused, the spirits of the fused, they're all super angry, vengeful, nasty, spren-ish spirits or whatever they are. But it's to your point too, Pete, where Dalinar is in he's got the thrill, so he's in the midst of passion, bloodlust, the passion of the battle, and then when he's done, it leaves him empty because he's like, well, that peak where he just shoots up and then comes down off of it, and he's like, well, I feel empty now because I don't feel like I did before.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I really enjoy the fact that I'm going to ask JJ again. The Eshna's sister, Vinley. The fact that her spren beats to different rhythms, which kind of shows us a bit about how the people in the physical realm interacting with the cognitive realm and how that changes, right?
But that's the weird thing, because the Parshmen were with Odium, but then they gave up their gods to escape, and they gave up all of that because they wanted to go back to how they were, which would have been Honor. But since Honor's no longer there to direct it, and since I haven't found the right songs to sing, how they were, which would have been Honor, but since Honor's no longer there to direct it, and since I haven't found the right songs to sing, how they were.
Technical difficulties. On loop. Then we get the roar in the background.
So yeah, the forms that they have in the beginning of the series, those are all, they still bond normal, like honor / cultivation spread, whatever those ones are.
Okay.
I believe, but I think they gave up pretty much I think they went all the way down to like nothing, like the dull form almost, or maybe not dull form, but I think a vast majority of them went to dull form and just like turned away from their gods, the spren.
Mm-hmm.
And then they talk about how there's in the visions, there's still Parshendi that fight after the recreants. There's still like the fighting that continues on. I almost wonder if those Parshendi that we see are like descendants of those ones, and so they have access to a few of the spren, but I think they shut themselves off to the mass majority of all the different types of forms and spren to avoid odium, because as soon as odium comes in, that's where you see like Ashonai and Vinley are like, whoa, this is actually like too much, guys. Like, this isn't what we were supposed to be doing.
Right. Kind of using that as a transition, what we're excited to see and hope to see / theorycraft for book 4. I'm really interested in learning more about the Parshendi / listeners / singers and kind of like their history and lore and abilities there, because the war is kind of scaling up. Really interested to follow Moash's storyline and how his interaction and everything. Moash did nothing wrong. I don't know if I'm quite on the hill yet, but I do see where you're coming from. Go ahead, Pete.
Point number 3, Elokar sucked. So there's that too.
He was making progress though, like he was growing and acknowledging that he's a failure. Go ahead.
So it's not going to happen.
I could be making progress on my crippling debt. Doesn't mean I'm not out of debt.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and that's, I want to say it's 3. Yeah, when Dalinar gets back all of his wife's stuff and how he killed his wife, burning down that village, and he has to face it. And that's kind of on the mental disorder, kind of not, but that's a lot of what we see in this book is redemption. You know, it doesn't matter what happens, it matters what you do about it. You know, he slaughtered a bunch of people in one point, got him to where he is today, got, you know, everything that he has, but now he needs to be more. Now he needs to go in a different direction. Anyway, it's not going to happen in this book because it's going to be a long series, but kind of like the end of Mistborn Era 1, it took thinking you were the Mac Daddy and that you were going to save everyone, failing, and then having side character B come and bring everything together. So I feel like it's going to be a big old kumbaya with our powers combined. Happy, joy moment.
Do you think there could be peace? Like, is that the direction we could go towards? Because like Kaladin doesn't want to fight.
Some fancy footwork, because the herald that got left behind that stopped Odium and all of his people from coming over, and then I guess this is probably a little bit of book 4, but they essentially want to succeed, exterminate the humans, and then leave the world to the Parshmen. But, you know, humans, we've been here a while, and we don't want to leave. So
it is the Parshman's world, just saying. Like,
yeah, but this is Brandon Sanderson. So we're going to kill a bunch of people, we're going to have epic powers, and then it's all going to work out that someone makes the ultimate sacrifice.
Okay.
Yeah, we've still got 6 books left after book 4 releases, so
oh yeah, we're still in the build-up phase.
Yeah.
I do think we're starting to see a little bit of a redemption arc for Zeph, though.
Yeah,
because he's died. This is not Zeth. This is.
I love that Nightblood just like calls him out as like, you followed a rock.
Yeah.
He's like,
except for
like even to Nightblood, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. What do you hope to see in book 4, JJ?
So I'm super excited, like you said, about like Parshendi and everything like that. I want to know your guys' order of radiance here in a sec, but I got Will Shaper, which is Venli / Ashonai.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see more from their perspective and like how that all means as far as because like we see multiple perspectives, and we did see a little bit, but we saw her like what we've seen of Venli so far is like part 1 and 2 of Way of Kings of Kaladin. Like we've seen like nothing as far as what that means for her. Plus, with her unique makeup of kind of being this hybrid, radiant, who knows what we're gonna see.
Plus, she's already hit that breaking point, or has been broken, where she was being harried by the humans on the Shattered Plains, pulled out her coup de grace, accidentally brought all of the other gods into it, got to see, everybody she knows and loves die, and, her sister, who has been with her this whole time, die, and now the Fused are here and taken over, and so
yeah,
it's time for her redemption.
Yeah.
And later, I'm calling it now, Moash is going to become a Windrunner, and those Parshmen that he's been chilling with are going to be his squires.
I could see that. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Book 5, though.
And then they're supposed to do a time hop after 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, we get all in one period, and then we do another time hop.
That's
like a significant time hop.
I think it's only like 10 years. It's like almost like the next generation where like they've all grown. Like that's, I think you'll still see the same characters. They'll just be almost like, yes, that would be like Dalinar age wise.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it makes sense. While our main characters were so young starting out. Kaladin was like, what, 16, 17, joining the army?
Oh,
yeah, when he joined the army. Yeah.
And even still now, he's like, what, 19, if that?
I think he's 21, maybe, or something like that.
I think JJ's right. I want to say he's in his early 20s at this point.
Yeah, I think
Shallan's 16 and Adolin is 23.
I thought Shallan and Kaladin were the same age, or pretty close.
I don't think so.
Oh.
Speaking of Shallan and Kaladin, that's my theory. I still think they might be a thing. I know she's with Adolin, but especially with.
Do you mean Shallan being with him, or Knights Radiant being with him, or Vale being with him?
I kind of think that Radiant is actually the one that's with Adolin.
Okay.
Radiant is the more regal of her, So she wants to be the princess and the queen and everything, and then on the flip side, I think her other
Vale.
Is it Vale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Vale is still deep down with Kaladin, and I think there's going to be a conflict there. I'm calling it right now. I don't think she and Kaladin are done.
I could see that.
It'll happen after Adolin dies.
But he's got to redeem the sword
maybe.
first.
What if it happens before?
They could be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I could
true.
See that working out just because
I think something. Oh, okay. Something weird's gonna happen. I don't know how it all pieces together, but Adolin will die, and somehow Maya will end up with him somewhere. I don't know how that all works.
Oh, interesting.
But that's what will solidify them, and he'll come back like Blaze of Glory as whatever he is.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Friends are thought constructs, and since he's had such an impact on people's lives, they're going to think him into the cognitive realm, of which then he's going to have Maya. And then we're going to get a little bit of Dalinar action to bring all the realms together. He's going to have his like shining light on the walkout.
Or because some of the Spren that bond with the radiance are spren that come from cultivation. And I think Maya actually is, because that's why she like resembles like the vines and stuff like that, like Wendell.
Okay.
And so something weird will happen with the Night Watcher where he'll come back as like he'll also be Dead Eyes ish.
Okay.
But like
Okay.
still like alive. Like Rosharan zombies.
Like
intelligent.
That's one. I don't quite understand what cultivation is doing. Like, Honor is siding with the humans and trying to preserve them. Odium is siding with the Parshmen currently and trying to obliterate all the humans. Meanwhile, cultivation is over in her corner like, yeah, I make things grow. You know, taking away Dalinar's pain to then give it back to him. And then we've got, Lift, who is never supposed to age and can eat stuff and absorb Stormlight or generate Stormlight. Like, she's got a couple pieces here and there, and she talks about how she is whatever grows, even the thorns. So I just see her pulling out some coup de grace where she's like, and here's my army.
We haven't seen much of her.
No.
We know about Honor and the other Odium. Go ahead, JJ.
Here's what I think. And this is not my original theory, but I like where this is going. We already know like cultivation was like in hiding. Like straight up, like because when Odium comes in, he's like, all right, I'm released. I already killed Honor. I'm going for the other one, and then I'll be done. So she's like straight up in hiding, I think.
Okay.
And I think she, for all intents and purposes, plays much more like the Mother Nature role on Roshar of like seeing, like you said, seeing things grow. But most people go to the Night Watcher for the old magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a whole set of power from cultivation that we haven't seen, which could be what Lift is in that power set.
Okay.
But the idea was that cultivation made very key moves with Dalinar, taking it away so that he could, in that climactic moment, he got himself built up enough to be able to handle because she already knew Honor's or Odium's going to flood you with all of the bad things that you've done, and you need to get to a point where you can handle that. Taravangian also got the same thing.
I think for capacity, right?
Correct. Like he got both, like the capacity.
It was a 2-part.
But I think cultivation. That's another one where cultivation entered in and played a role there. So they're all like chess pieces or like sleeper agents for Odium. So like she's like super clandestine in like her moves as far as, all right, here's what I'm doing to prevent Odium, but I have to, because if she dies, they're hosed.
Yeah. Be interesting to see if we see more of her in book 4. Yeah.
I'll be interested to see that too.
So much love for this series. I look forward to getting into book 4. Hopefully you guys can join us for the Geek Out. I don't know how long it takes you guys, but we'll probably listen to it like 3 or 4 times in that like week and a half before we do the Geek Out.
How long is it supposed to be?
I think it's like the longest one yet, close to 60 hours. They're all over 50 hours.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be about 1,200 pages or more, I think.
It's a higher word count than Oathbringer, but I think it's like a couple pages less. So it is actually technically longer by word count.
That much more goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I'll be reading the physical book, or well, the ebook. So I won't be listening to it on audiobook. So it might take me a little bit longer.
Fair enough. Yeah. Final thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Good viewpoints and challenge to the perspective on it.
I got a podcast for you guys.
Okay.
There's two. One is the Sandersonian Institute for Cosmere Studies.
Sign me
They're
up.
like they're just like three super fans. But that's where like some of these theories come through. But they dive into like the Copper Mine, 17th Shard, Words of Brandon. Like they get into it.
Nice.
And then the other one is World Hopper's Guide to the Cosmere or something like that. That guy takes like a concept in the Cosmere and does like a 15-minute little podcast of like a deep dive, like very like super well done. He even does a episode with the prologues for Stormlight where we were talking about the multiple perspectives and pieces together all the different things. It makes like a cohesive timeline of this is what happens while that's going on. This is happening over there.
Okay.
And it follows through. So those are two fantastic ones.
That's one downside to the audiobook for me because I kind of want to do what Talivangian did with his book, where he put all the pictures on the wall and he put it into a book, and then he has inspiration and he starts like cutting apart the book and piecing it back together. Because the timeline isn't linear. We got a lot of back and forth.
Yeah. Before we bounce, want to give Chaz and JJ an opportunity to share anything new and exciting coming up on your guys' channel. We already got the links in the description below.
Go for it, JJ.
Well, I'm finally making a video. It's already filmed. It's almost done being edited. It's a book haul video, and it's like 45 minutes long because I haven't done one of those in like 2 months. And my birthday was a week ago, so I bought a bunch of books.
Happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the bookshelf behind you is looking good, man. We remember back in the day when you were just starting out on it.
It was crazy too because I talk about it because I had to go back and watch my last haul video to figure out where the stopping point was to feel like, okay, here's all the books I got in the last bit. And going back, I'm like, holy cow, like it was empty.
Money well spent. So if you guys want to check that out, JJ's channel below. Chaz, you got anything exciting upcoming you want to shout out?
Yeah, definitely do. I've got a couple of videos planned here. I should be finished with all my Lovecraft reading for October, so I'm going to have my Lovecraftober summary up. I'm hoping for this next video, and I'm also going to be doing a review of Bly Manor. So I've been been watching that with my kids. So I'm going to do a TV show review for The Haunting of Bly Manor. So that'll be my next two videos coming up. Pretty excited about that. And it's my birthday this week, JJ. So
hey, happy early birthday.
Happy birthday month.
Yeah.
I'm a bit older than you are, I think. I'm the old man of this group.
Maybe a couple years. Just a few. Well, Pete and I don't have any birthdays coming up, but life's been kicking our butt, though we hope to get back to our video schedule, getting a couple back out a week between work and life and just stuff,
man.
2020 nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a a lot goes into these passion projects, which is why we really appreciate you guys setting aside the time to hang out, geek out with us over the Stormlight Archive. Definitely one of the highlights of my week doing these. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Next Geek Out session, we are going back to the Completionist Chronicles, doing book 4. I don't know if we have the graphics put together, but yeah, lit RPG genres, going back to Peter's favorite there. And yeah, same time, same place. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Hey, we'll see you.
Thanks a lot. This was fun.
Bye.
Bye.